Okay, so we are really happy today to, let's say, start this webinar organized by BioGovNet project. And it is titled From Awareness to Action, Arts in Bioeconomy Education for a Just and Green Transition, because we would like to explore with you this, let's say, how creative approaches can really bridge the gap between knowledge and meaningful change. I'm Selenia Marinelli, and I today represent BioGovNet project on behalf of my partners that today are together with us, and I work for FBA New Media Research. Our objective today is also to explore with you this kind of intersection, also to foster meaningful conversations around the powerful, let's say, means that arts can open and, let's say, foster a just and inclusive green transition. As said previously, this webinar is recorded, so will be shared afterwards to inspire a broader audience in addition to today's participants. We reached already great interest from all the registered participants today, and we not just want to explore the role of arts in the green transition and bioeconomy education in particular, but we would also like to spark new ideas, also fostering collaborations among all the projects and initiatives that today we are, let's say, representing. So this webinar, as said, is hosted by BioGovNet project. So before entering the conversation, I would like to briefly introduce you the project in a nutshell. So our mission is to foster the transition to an innovative and inclusive bioeconomy, specifically with an exploration of innovative governance model for the bioeconomy education. And we also aim to co-create guidelines for mentoring, training, and bioeconomy, let's say, programs through a multi-stakeholder approach. And of course, for us, it's super central, the integration in this kind of training and mentoring programs of the humanities, art, design, and culture. Together, we established 8 communities of practices in 8 EU-targeted regions. And just to give you, let's say, a definition of these 8 communities of practice, we can see them as regional co-creation labs, bringing together different stakeholders groups in bioeconomy education, but also in bioeconomy in general across the value chain, but also in the arts sector, so that together we collaborated, fostering a multi-stakeholder approach. And in particular, we did that through many activities during this a couple of years of project. So we conducted the regional assessment of bioeconomy education needs with a special focus on vocational training and lifelong learning. We identified group practices and also case studies. We mobilized the stakeholders across Europe for better governance and skills development in the targeted regions. And of course, our goal, as previously mentioned, is to facilitate creative and innovative thinking in bioeconomy education through the role of art and culture that can really help solve complex problems. And today we will have many inspirational case studies that will prove that. And finally, of course, our final goal is to deliver training and mentoring guidelines to really address all these needs and regional, let's say, specificities. So we can a little bit more enter into the core topics of today's webinar. So let's say that this event aligns with the new European Bauhaus vision of creating sustainable, inclusive, and beautiful futures. So together we will explore in particular how we can shift from STEM to STEAM approaches that are seen as a new form of teaching, seeking to promote curricular integration between science, technology, engineering, mathematics, but most importantly, arts, because we really believe that arts-based approaches and methods can help driving the change towards a more sustainable, just, and inclusive transition. In particular, they embrace modern cognitive aspects of knowledge, such as emotions, values, intuition, that are often neglected and marginalized in conventional science. They also improve communication and engagement with diverse audiences by using creative forms of expression to explore alternative pathways and possibilities for sustainability. And finally, through the role of arts, we can also explore teaching and learning across different disciplines, facilitating an interconnected, deeper, and meaningful learning processes, as well as collaborative and experiential learning. So really, we aim with this inspirational pitches at the beginning of this webinar to deepen all this kind of inputs. And today, together with us, we have amazing, let me say, speakers. Because we will have inspirational pitches by Viola Pinzi, representing our sister project Engage for Bio. Then we will have Elizabeth Vlachou from Scientific System Alliance that will introduce her journey with the Europeana initiative to support the cultural heritage sector. And finally, we will have the new European Bauhaus Academy Alliance represented by Andrea Kuttner, and she will join us a little bit later. To all the speakers, we asked to provide an inspirational presentation trying to address the following questions. So which educational objectives can really benefit from this cross-fertilization between arts and, in general, environmental education, but specifically bioeconomy education? And what are the most effective practices implemented that they wanted to show to us to be inspired together with them? And finally, we will also try to open an interactive Mentimeter session. So we really aim to have 10 minutes, let's say, in which all the participants feel engaged in trying to also map key challenges in integrating arts and bioeconomy education for a just and green transition. So I believe that we, let's say, can start with the first presentation. We will have around 8 minutes each, and I will set the timer just to make sure that we are, let's say, on time. And I will start with the BioGovNet project, because as we said, for our project and in general, the BioGovNet methodological approach, art is very central. And we acknowledge that in general, the role of art is central in many innovative educational training, mentoring, and research programs, because we recognize that can ignite critical and creative strengths in learners while supporting an ethically aware, imaginative engagement. And because of that, we base our own methodology in 4 dimensions. Of course, integrating the new European Bauhaus aspects and values with the art-based frameworks and STEAM approaches to learning to develop, let's say, this approach that link art with bioeconomy education along 4 dimensions. I also want to stress out that this session in particular today is a valuable example also of cross-fertilization between Horizon Europe projects in bioeconomy education and the new European Bauhaus project that will be represented by Andrea at the end with aligned objectives. So indeed, we try to also incorporate this new European Bauhaus perspective, which is central for our project as well. So we will go into details per, let's say, each dimension. We will navigate and, of course, present some related case study. And the first dimension is art to elicit new ways of thinking and develop skills, with the objective to define educational programs which can stimulate systemic vision, circular and sustainable mindset, structural change, transversal competencies and skills. We know that these are central also in the bioeconomy education strategy, and also to foster divergent thinking. But what is systemic thinking in general? We can say that systemic thinking requires a shift in mindset, because we need to shift from a linear to a circular way of thinking, and system thinkers use this mindset to untangle and work within the complexity of life. And in general, this, of course, is very much important to also address the complexity of bioeconomy education. And understanding causality leads to a deeper perspective of agency, feedback loops, connections, and relationship with arts are central. Of course, artistic methods can really foster this kind of systemic change in thinking. Some examples are the design thinking, which is an iterative approach to problem solving that combines empathy, ideation, prototyping, and testing, encouraging creativity and collaboration to develop innovative solutions. And this methodology is often used to product design, business, and social innovation. But we can also mention visual thinking, which is another process that uses images, diagrams, sketches to organize and also communicate ideas. And it helps with problem solving, creativity, and understanding complex concepts, making them more tangible and also accessible. The second dimension that today we want to explore, and it is part of the second dimension of our BioGovNet methodology, is art to address different learning styles and facilitate inclusion of marginalized groups. As we said before, inclusion is very much important for just a transition. And so using methodologies and artistic communication and approaches in bioeconomy can really help to define educational programs that facilitates the use of art in various ways to better address different learning styles, but also to reach marginalized groups using artistic means. For example, we acknowledge that agreeing with the VARC model, everybody receives and processes the information differently, either visually, auditory, written, kinesthetic, and multimodal. So it is important to address different learning styles. But we can also reach marginalized people through art, for example, people with learning difficulties, non-native speakers like migrants, but arts can also be a motivation driver to stimulate people that are not easy to engage, for example, needs or unemployed people. And I wanted to present case studies, specific case studies that was implemented in Taranto, which is my hometown in southern Italy. And this was an hands-on lab targeting kids age 7 to 12 years old. But of course, it's a format that can be replicated with different target ages. The main thing here is to understand that this was in the context of a school of architecture for kids, so they need to explore, let's say, future scenarios for the city, which is affected by a huge problem of pollution caused by the steel production associated with this steelwork factory that was opened in the 60s, that unfortunately is also associated with different types of cancer. So in this case, the kids were coming from difficult backgrounds, and they also had learning difficulties. Some of them, for example, couldn't read. So experiencing this kind of a hands-on lab with co-creation of storytelling really helped them to enter in this kind of topic and feeling more included into the learning process. And of course, a final objective of this lab was to also change their mindset, showing that new opportunities exist in materials, just as new opportunities can exist in life. The third dimension of our methodological approach is art to communicate messages, inspire people, and raise their interest and awareness. So using inspirational case studies and artistic formats to educate the bioeconomy, to integrate the opportunities offered by art, but also leveraging the Nespresso marketing model to link beauty and good. We have an example here, the BioArt Gallery, which was designed by BioVoices, transition to Bio, many other educational educational projects in bioeconomy. And it is an exhibition with this stunning, let's say, visuals and panels showcasing the numerous possibilities that are behind the bioeconomy. And in addition to these images with feedstocks and specifically showing feedstock that are currently considered as waste, we can see the different possibilities of bioeconomy applications in everyday life, so that, let's say, users can understand and feel curious about this topic. The fourth and final dimension that we target in our, let's say, methodological approach is art to inject bioeconomy, cultural and creative industries professionals, with the objective to, in one hand, inspire students and professionals engaged in artistic careers to integrate bioeconomy in their practices, and on the other hand, to inform and educate professionals in cultural and creative industry to use biomaterials in their work. I am myself an architect, so I try to also convey these messages in my own practices. And we will see a couple of examples. I already introduced you this kind of hands-on labs with the do-it-yourself creation of biomaterials that before we saw briefly with the hands-on lab with kids. Here we can see another example that was performed with high school students of the PCTO program, which is an Italian program in high school for PACs for developing transversal skills and orientation. So they are about to choose their university career. And this was important in order to raise their awareness on more sustainable materials for architecture and design, but also how to stimulate new perspectives on work and entrepreneurial opportunities. On the other hand, we can have a couple of examples on how architects and designers are really integrating biomaterials in their practices. So this is the HiFi Tower that was produced in 2014 by the Living Design firm, and is a cluster of circular towers formed using bricks that were naturally grown using corn stalks and mushroom myceliums. After 3 months of cultural events, this temporary installation was dismantled and the bricks were composted, because, of course, this was a manifesto to promote a zero carbon emissions compostable construction. Finally, this is the big house. That was constructed in 2013 in Hamburg. This is the world's first algae biomass producing facade system. This building integrated photobioreactors for the cultivation of microalgae, and this passive energy house generates biomass and heat as renewable energy resources. So this was my presentation, and I also give the floor to our second speaker. I hope this first intervention was inspirational, but I know that many other inspirations will come afterwards. So I leave the floor to my colleague Viola Pinzi, representing Engage for Bio project. Viola, the floor is yours.
Hi, hello everybody. Thank you very much, colleagues from BioGovNet, to invite us again to share our work, which is still a work in progress, as you know. So I'm Viola Pinzi. I work at the European Association for the Education of Adults, and we're one of the partners of this horizon called Engage for Bio. We are there indeed to represent a bit what is the world of lifelong learning and how bioeconomy and lifelong learning, of course, are connected. So Engage for Bio is a project that has also a level of regional implementation. So there is, of course, an international partnership, but then there is a strong emphasis in working within what we call the 5 regional hubs, bioeconomy hubs, that are in different countries in Europe. So from the point of view how Engage for Bio process, I will try here to give you a bit of the high-level points of our journey since the project started a year and a half ago. There is another year to go, so there is still a lot going on. I think one of the interesting points in Engage for Bio is that what we call art and design perspective, so not only practices, not only how we work with art and design professionals, but really what is the perspective that art and design can bring to the field of bioeconomy and to support the upcoming, let's say, practices and how the practice can be actually be implemented in reality. was really a bit encompassing the whole activities we did. So Engage for Bio started with this design of conceptual framework. So we said, what are the main important aspects that we need to consider for bioeconomy to become really a strong practices in the hubs, in the regional hubs, or any context really. And then there, one of the pillars between the technology, so the bioeconomic technology that in a specific context can be really the focus, and also the governance perspective, and there was, of course, the learning perspective, and the fourth pillar was indeed the arts and design perspective. So the whole, let's say, processes of Engage for Bio are built around this idea that arts and design are not just practices to be embedded in learning or any activity, awareness raising, communication campaigns, or anything else, but they should be considered as a broader, let's say, paradigm or approach that can lead a bit the overall. So the integration should be both ways as well. So how art and design practices can be embedded in bioeconomy, but also how bioeconomy can facilitate or can be, let's say, leveraging this kind of practice. So we started from this analysis, so then we moved into co-creating all the activities that are being now implemented in the hub till more or less the summer 25th. And among these activities, there were indeed training and mentoring for skill development for adults, but also some youth, young adults, and then awareness and knowledge campaigns. These are the ones, of course, where we observe that the arts and design practices are being implemented largely. But these also are the base for all our co-creation workshop with stakeholders themselves. So that's an example of how that we started with the analysis. We embedded the arts and design perspective as core aspect of our conceptual framework. They led the way to how to organize co-creation in the context, and the same people, most of them, that was the aim, of course, are participating also in the actual implementation activities. The same people that help us to co-design these activities. And now, of course, as I mentioned, we are developing the actual actions that they were co-designed. So just to give you a couple of ideas, also what we observed as benefits in the next slides, I try to summarize. You can imagine a 10th and 10th activities that are being carried out. So in what we saw, indeed, embedding concrete practices coming from arts and design help us enormously to create safe spaces for collaboration for the stakeholders, as I mentioned initially in the analysis, in this gap analysis we conducted in context, then in having them supporting, of course, with co-design the activities, and now indeed in implementing designers. And here there were a variety of really design right practices, as you mentioned already, Selenia, coming from design thinking, prototyping, and I will make a quick list in the next. The second aspect benefit that we are observing is the fact that indeed these practices, which are somehow by design, again, very collaborative, support the feeling for learners, for participants in campaign and awareness raising activities, that they are part of a community, that they are part of the activity itself. So not just come, do your thing and go away. This is why I also mention awareness activities together, because one of the other aspects that we noticed that also is a bit our, of course, approach at European Association of Educational Adult, that learning is a community activity, and learning sometimes an awareness activity can be a bit borderline, meaning that it's not that an activity that is designed for learning, it doesn't raise awareness, and the other way around, an activity that is more focused on awareness raising is also a learning activity in a way. So here, for example, we are also experimenting with as we say, the activity like living labs, or anyhow, everything related to experiential design. So as you showed as well. And the last point that is very important, I think, that perhaps one of the fundamental really for bioeconomy and for the, let's say, sustainability education is how can we help everybody to understand this very complex topic. So we realize that using this kind of practices coming from design, coming from instructional, experiential design, and so on, really facilitate the exploration of this complexity. This bioeconomy is a very complex topic. It's not just technology, it's not just science, it's also economics, social aspects, and so on. And also the next step, which is what we call envisioning. So therefore, how can we indeed think about different future based on what we are now exploring? So these are things where we saw indeed that this kind of practice like visualization, prototyping, help a lot to be inclusive indeed, to make sure that everybody can participate in this dialogue. So just to wrap very briefly, a quick list. So here you see some images coming from our activities in the last year, but I would say there are a variety of practices that can be used. Here there are just some of them, some of the ones we have been promoting and using in our activities, organized a bit by, let's say, complexity level, but also stages and type of action. So there are some activities and actions and practices that are very useful for understanding, exploration, so making people understand or participant to start thinking about certain topics, like, for example, the work cafe, the brain walking, the fish bones. There are some activities that are more, let's say, in what the design thinking would call ideation phase. So to go a bit deeper into certain topics, perhaps require a bit more time and also a bit more commitment. So, for example, the persona role playing, the problem reversal techniques, and so on. And finally, indeed, we also embedded activities that are properly prototyping. So, designing per se something new could be, as I said, learning activities could be a better future, could be something very small or something very ambitious. And here, indeed, we use these techniques when there is a bit of constructive community, we could say, there is more structured activities, a bit more time. So what I mean is that they are really practice that can be used at any level with any kind of audiences. It's just very important to identify the needs of the specific action that you want to carry out, and who are your, let's say, audiences of the day, and how, what kind of practice can be really be feasible and also, let's say, efficient in that context. And of course, we have also a design award, just a little bit of a final promotion that we are about to announce the winners in March. So stay tuned if you want to know more. We had 4 categories related to the bioeconomy technology. So, for example, woods, blue economy, and so on. And we are very also ourselves excited to see a bit. We are seeing now the submission. So we hope that we have very interesting information also to share about that. Yeah, that would be all from me. Keep in touch if you wish, of course. Get contact us if you want to know more about what we've been doing.
Yes. Of course, together with the recordings that will be shared afterwards, we will also share with all the participants with these presentations so that you can explore more the contents and also get in contact with the speakers. So thank you, Viola. And now I give the floor to Elizabeth, that will present Scientix and Europeana, a STEM and arts collaboration. Elizabeth, the floor is yours, and please make sure to stay in 8 minutes so that we can allow also the participation of our final speaker, Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you, Selene, and thank you for the invitation. And I'm really happy to be part of this webinar. So I'm going to talk about this STEM and arts collaboration. And the next slide, please. We will start with just saying a few things about Scientix, which is the leading science education community in Europe. And as you can see in the next slide, Scientix has worked over the past years to advance STEM education and on a global scale, and provide a range of resources and services, and in many different languages as well. In the next slide, so it's a community. Scientix is a community for sharing and co-creation. It connects and oversees a range of initiatives that enables the participation of all key stakeholders in science education. And in this slide, you can see some members of this community. For example, we have the Ministries of Education STEM Working Group, collaboration with the industry through the STEM Alliance initiative, and of course, educators through the Scientix Ambassadors program and schools. Through Scientix, many resources are provided, like professional development ones, like, for example, the STEM School School Label initiative, massive open online courses. It also provides networking opportunities through its blog, conferences, seminars, and knowledge resources such as papers, teaching materials, job profiles, and projects. What is more, it provides all the latest news in the field of STEM education through its web page and Scientix TV. And last but not least, it runs campaigns to celebrate STEM. And as we're talking, the STEM Discovery campaign is up and running. It was launched on the 1st of February and it runs until the end of April. I'm going to talk a bit about it later. And the Scientix Awards, as part of the STEM Discovery campaign, to actually recognize the best STEM practices. So in the next slide, all these projects, initiatives are developed to address the 4 key priorities that we have to address and they are defined in close consultation with our Ministries of Education STEM representatives working group. And as you can see, for example, in the first priority, is to improve STEM teaching in early childhood education, primary and secondary. And its second priority is to connect STEM with global challenges, like, for example, environmental sustainability. As its third priority is to expand STEM, expand access to STEM careers, for example, by addressing gender stereotypes. And its fourth priority is to facilitate STEM educators' exchange and peer learning through piloting of initiatives, practices, and also providing solutions and best practices. So in the next slide, please. Here, we can see just how under the umbrella of Scientix, we run projects covering the different areas, from connecting STEM subjects, as in integrated STEM, to environmental sustainability, to EdTech innovation, and beyond STEM, these exploratory actions. And last but not least, contextualizing STEM as in culture and society. And I'm going to talk about this right now in the next slide, please. So we're talking about the Common European Data Space for Cultural Heritage Initiative. We shortly refer to this as Europeana DS project. And the next slide, please. A few things about this initiative and its main aims. First aim is to accelerate the digital transformation of the cultural heritage sector, to facilitate the sharing of heritage data across Europe with cutting-edge infrastructure, and empower the sector through capacity building opportunities. I am providing here the link to this initiative, and you can also explore it on your own. The data space builds on the Europeana initiative that I'm going to talk about this right now in the next slide. And the Europeana resources, what this initiative can offer to educators, to all interested stakeholders. And first, we have the Europeana platform. The Europeana is mainly known from its platform, the Europe's digital platform for cultural heritage. Over there, someone can go search for content like images, videos, sounds, 3D materials, read blogs, browse exhibitions, make their own accounts and have the chance to curate their own galleries or have access to translated resources. So, for example, you want to, you're an educator, you want to implement a project in your school about fossil fuels and biofuels. You can go there and search by keyword, fossil fuel or biofuel, to Europeana platform, and find resources that are relevant to your topic. Or, for example, agricultural waste and how to turn it into bioproducts. Again, you can find resources over there. And the next slide, please. This is the other pool, if I may say, of Europeana resources. We're talking about the Teaching with Europeana blog, where someone can find learning scenarios ready to be used. So a clear set of activities that can be implemented in an educational setting using these Europeana resources. Stories of implementation, which are actually stories that educators have created after implementing a Europeana learning scenario in their setting. We also have the micro stories, which are again stories of implementation, a bit shorter yet impactful, and updates, which are blog posts relevant to the latest updates of the project, and of course with relevant to educational topics that can be addressed using Europeana resources. And in the next slide, thank you, Selena. Just adding some information about the learning scenarios over here on the Teaching with Europeana blog. About 790 learning scenarios can be found for all schools levels, for several subjects, designed, as we say, by teachers for teachers. And I'm just providing here a couple of examples. In the first learning scenario, this teacher from Finland created this for the students to learn more about important plants and animals in its habitat. The scenario is called Forests and Meadows, Invertebrates. And the second one, they created this teacher from Portugal. They created this learning scenario to raise awareness for sustainable food, food waste, and food loss. Again, I'm providing the links here if you want to explore them more. And in the next slide, we can see two examples of stories of implementation that are actually related to the learning scenarios that I shared with you. So in the first case, we have a teacher from Malta implementing this learning scenario about forests and meadows. And actually, the learning scenario was for secondary education. This teacher was in early childhood education. So you can see the whole story, how she adapted the learning scenario to implement it in her own context. And another example of the story of implementation for the second learning scenario, and the food for thought and how it was implemented in Croatia. And in the next slide, okay, now I'm going to talk a bit about the Scientix Awards. I mentioned that in the beginning of my presentation, and thank you. So, as I mentioned, we have the STEM Discovery campaign to celebrate STEM. So we invite everyone to join and share their STEM-related activities, STEM-related experiences. So it runs until the 31st of April. And at the same time, we have the Scientix Awards that are dedicated to celebrate the outstanding achievements of educators in science education. And within this initiative, the Scientix Awards, we have one award supported by this project, by the Europeana project. It is called Scientix Cultural Legacy Award. And in the next slide, we can see just some details about this award. So we celebrate those entries that present the stories of implementation that make the best use of Europeana resources, and the winners of this award will be invited to Brussels to attend the science project workshop, and their stories will also be published on the Teaching with Europeana blog. And please, on the next slide, everyone can participate in the campaign, and everyone's activities can be considered for one or more Scientix Awards. And because we're talking about bioeconomy, we also have a Scientix Award that celebrate the Scientix Circular Choice Award that celebrates educators who showed exceptional dedication to promote sustainable and circularity practices in the classroom activities. Again, I am providing links to all these different initiatives so that you can explore them more if you would like to. And that's it, the final slide. Thank you very much. And as a last call for action, just join the STEM Discovery campaign and celebrate STEM with us and the whole world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. All very inspirational. So we are on time to also welcome our next speaker, Andrea Kutner. So welcome, Andrea, and she will be presenting the NEBA Alliance. So please, Andrea, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting. Of course, 8 minutes is very little time, so it's just more or less a pitch to attract your attention that you also contact us further. So I will present very in brief the NEBA Alliance that I'm coordinating, but otherwise for a start, I am a professor of wood science at the University of Primorska in Slovenia and director of a research institute in Renew, focusing on the wood use in healthy built environment. So, but I was trying to do the control, so I hope that I got the control to move. But
yes,
I am okay.
Yes,
Successfully took it over. So you are all very familiar with the new European Bauhaus and the values and principles. At the same time, I'm sure that all of you also know that it's a lot of focus given also to the built environment and how the decarbonization of buildings needs to take place. However, as we were hearing and more and more was emphasizing the need for a change the way we live and build, it was realized that we do not have enough skills. And so in 2022, in November, in Helsinki, it was announced by the president of the European Commission that we need academy. We need new European Bauhaus Academy. And we have been also discussing what all this means, what the academy should be. And before we know it, there was an opportunity to apply for a call that was published for establishment of a new European Bauhaus Academy. And we gathered a consortium and applied with the project New European Bauhaus Academy Alliance, aiming to, of course, establish the NEP Academy. So Alliance is a project and Academy is something that we are building up that is long lasting. And the mission that we have been working on for quite some time with the consortium, I will read it out, is to train, upskill, and reskill the construction ecosystem to achieve a carbon neutral building sector and a beautiful, sustainable, and inclusive transformation of the built environment. I'm always saying I'm going to read it out because we really were working on it, how to actually present what we want to achieve with the NEP Academy. We, of course, also defined the vision. In 2 years, we started last April, what we aim that until next March, we have the NEP Academy established that is self-sustainable and recognizable in pan-European training ecosystem, and that is operated through the different NEP Academy hubs. Vision in 5 years is that we offer relevant micro-credentials throughout Europe for certain construction professionals. And in 10 years, our ambition is to go beyond Europe so that this becomes spread throughout the world, because we are, of course, very well aware that it's not enough that we do the change in Europe. It needs to go beyond it. And who do we target in terms of the training and reskilling, upskilling? It's a very broad ecosystem. So going from education, training, and academia, meaning that it shouldn't be always needed that we have a long life learning in place, but that the next generations are actually coming out of the school systems with the relevant knowledge. Then public bodies and policymakers, construction ecosystem, which includes the private sector, the architects, the engineers, and of course the general public and civil society. As an example, that the society should be aware and know that they are supposed to be part of the new construction projects in the village or in the municipality, if I say it very general. The academy have been like all these starts that we had until now are really in close collaboration with the European Commission. And also its official launch was last April at the NEP Festival with the commissioner, at that time commissioner for R&D. And we have been, of course, always aware of the importance to to be engaged in the NEP community beyond building up the academy. And the consortium itself and how we are actually like set up, it's like this map somehow shows it. So we in Slovenia, we have a first pioneer hub actually was established in Slovenia by our university. And we operate our hub also in Austria and Poland. And then we have so-called South Hub that is in Spain and Italy, Central Hub, and then the North Hub that is in the 3 different countries. And we have been working on a business model now for a year almost already, how the academy can really work in the future. And so far, how it is defined is that it's going to be running under the University of Primorska. And we have these 5 different initial hubs that are built by the consortium partners, but at the same time, the structure is defined such that it's open so that the other hubs can also join, and also partners, different institutions from the countries and regions that we already are present in can join our activities. And with that, would like to, I think that I'm a bit shorter than 8 minutes, but I have another meeting to run to that I am late. But at the end, would like to share that the first kind of like openness of NEP Academy will happen on the 28th of February, when we will open an open call for new hubs and new partners to join the different hubs that are being established through the NEP Academy Alliance. And we will be, of course, very happy to meet you, all of you, the participants, and also all these presentations that I already see now. They're really relevant, that we should be definitely connecting. And with that, would like to thank you, and of course, willing to further collaborate.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for your presentation as well, and also for joining us in between your, let's say, work duties. So it was very much important also to understand how Circular Bio-Based Europe joint undertaking is actually trying to convey all this kind of bioeconomy-related messages in the construction sectors and through the new European Bauhaus values and, let's say, priorities. So thank you very much. And okay, so now I cannot actually regain the power to, because you okay, thank you. So I have
again. I gave it back. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. No worries, because we just had let's say this very final interactive session. So after this inspirational pitches that really triggered also our imagination towards this kind of cross-fertilization between arts and bioeconomy education, we really want all the participants to join our interactive session with your phones. So I kindly ask my colleague Valentina to share the screen, and here you can find the link to join Mentimeter and the interactive session. So you can either scan the QR code with your cell phone or go to mentimeter.com and enter the code that you can find here displayed. So 85221816. So we wanted to just have this final section, let's say, trying to understand future challenges around this kind of topics. So we see that some of you are already entering. You can either join via computer with your personal computer, going to mentimeter.com, entering the code, or scan the QR with your cell phones. Don't be shy. It will be, let's say, a very final, maybe fun part, also to wrap up all the many inputs that we gather together today.
Cele, sorry,
Yes.
the address is menti.com, not mentimeter.com, so it's menti.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe we can go to the next slide so that people there are on board can really provide their inputs on this guiding question. So we really want to ask you, according to you, to your experience, but also maybe triggered by the inspirational pitches that we heard before, what are, in your opinion, the key challenges in integrating arts and bioeconomy education for a just and green transition? I would also add inclusive transition. So we heard today the many inspirational case studies, how the potential behind this kind of cross fertilization, but are there any challenges that still need to be addressed in order to effectively provide this kind of inputs that are based on the arts methods approaches and in teaching and also in learning? We see the first inputs, so awareness on the benefits of this cross-fertilization. So indeed, today we had a plethora of, let's say, examples, but we can further work on the dissemination, of course, of this kind of benefits. So rigid educational systems. As a matter of fact, we identified also in previous workshops that indeed we should also see bioeducation as a kind of meta subject that can be easily integrated as an add-on, let's say, in the current educational systems. The lack of guidance, of course, move beyond technical know-how and create open source common knowledge. Totally agree with that, because we saw that in agreement and following the open science, let's say, perspective, of course, having much more a community that can share the knowledge and give accessible, let's say, tools in order to really understand how we can shift from STEM to STEAM, as we saw at the beginning of this webinar, so integrating STEM and art. Lack of interdisciplinary teaching methods and materials. Yes, I agree also with that. Lack of expertise. We know that also teachers. So in following the train the trainers approach, of course, we need to equip them with the more expertise in order to also to tackle this kind of challenges related to this integration of the many disciplines. So different working styles of artists and scientists. This is really good. Indeed, I agree that maybe even though we can follow parallel paths that can lead to common goals, we might have different styles, let's say. Art seems something different from green education. This is very, very curious, very interesting. I don't know if maybe some of you want to speak up, because we also would like to have you let's say, uh, speaking loud and maybe explore more also this kind of inputs that we received in Menti.
Yes, Elenia, this was mine, Susanna. And this comes from several considerations in GMB project, where we really found kind of silos among those two dimensions. And it seems that green education is something more, let's say, serious, more connected to the formal education, while art is something more connected to informal and non-formal education. And so it is not always perceived in the same table, in the same place. And so those projects that are creating bridges might be really very helpful. And also, I think connected to this, that there is this one lack of person with specific knowledge about both bioeconomy and art. So people that are kind of bridging, having the two knowledge can really facilitate not only the education, but also the awareness. So be aware of the fact that there is this possibility, as you shown in your presentation, Selenia.
Thank you, Susanna. So yeah, we see many inputs in this direction. So teachers are not prepared for the change, skills on teachers' side, interdisciplinary gaps, but we can also see the policy and institutional support. So indeed, we should also have this policy dimension, let's say, that can foster this better integration into the ministerial programs that leads also to the curricula modernization. So we see budget and insurance for out of classroom activities. Yes, indeed, we highlighted how hands-on and experiential learning approaches and activities can really be more inclusive, but of course we need more budget and insurance. Students interested in arts may feel disconnected from bioeconomy topics. So again, we see coming back this lack of perception that there is an actual integration between green and bioeconomy related topics and arts. Obstacles for combining science and art in research and education. Legal regulation does not fit to such an integration. So again, we need maybe more exemplified also regulatory measures that can really support this kind of integration. So common society still have the understanding that arts are not related to science. Again, we, even though we demonstrated today together that we have many more, there are also outside the speakers, today's speakers, let's say, contribution, we still have the lack of perception that there is a connection between arts and science. Artists are not involved in EU-funded projects. This is interesting. So maybe also these projects that are dealing with this kind of arts-based approaches like to have let's say the specific point of view that comes from actually the people that are involved in first person in this kind of cultural and artistic practices. Just to conclude with the final three inputs, no space available in educational program. Those studying bioeconomy may see art as non-essential rather than as a tool for storytelling. Oversimplification of complex topics, reductionism. So, okay, we here have maybe a more scientific, let's say, perspective towards the arts that sometimes are, let's say, perceived as something that exemplify too much the complex topics that are behind, let's say, the scientific backgrounds, but in my opinion, they can, let's say, open up the minds and also foster system thinking that can really help us to navigate through this kind of challenges and topics. So I believe that we can close this interactive session. We are really happy also with the many inputs that we received and in general with the overall participation. So thanks, Valentina, for sharing, also to all of you for staying with us until this very last moment. So as we conclude today's webinar, I really wanted to express my and our gratitude to all the speakers and also to, let's say, my colleagues that today are joining us representing BioGovNet project. So the discussion that we've had today tried to deepen this kind of transformative role that arts can play in bioeconomy education, turning abstract concepts into tangible, emotionally resonant experiences that can inspire meaningful actions. So we really hope that this webinar was inspirational to all of you. And again, these recordings will be made available. So give an eye, let's say, to the BioGovNet social media channels and platforms. I will share with all the participants the presentations. And we hope that these discussions can also continue to inspire and inform a wider audience thanks to the heritage that we will leave with these recordings. So thank you once again from my side and also from my colleagues' side for your time and also for your active engagement. Thank you very much.